Julie, thank you so much for the introduction about the panel. Before we start the panel, I've prepared some slides to give you a bit of background about our daily work and especially some figures we need for a panel discussion. And so I will start a short presentation about from where I'm coming from and why I'm here and why we are partnering since, I would say now, 5 years together with Julie in that topic of the wearables. We are at least since more than a decade working in the field of wearables, evangelizing the market, bringing the right technologies together to create at least the right product. So we do tech scouting, we do going to market support, and at least also conferences. And the next one will be in Munich in some weeks. And I could just tell you that San Francisco is also not far away in July. To set the scene, it's important to make the definition. What is a wearable? At least a wearable, by that definition, we made now, I think, 11 years ago. Every kind of electronic product you could wear close to the body, on the body, or in the body. And we learned already that a lot is going on, even in the body with implants and so on. So just take care of that definition, because this is the basis, at least, of the overall view on the use cases of wearables. For us, wearables are just part of this whole IoT movement. And important is a wearable makes only sense if it's connected to the cloud, if it's connected to a smart environment. Otherwise, you can't generate out of the wearable meaningful data. And we will talk today about meaningful data also in the healthcare purpose. And I think this is important because we are facing a big problem. We are facing a worldwide problem regarding non-communicable disease. Worldwide, we are paying every year $3 trillion to fight against non-communicable disease. What are non-communicable disease? This is a chart from the WHO. So asthma, 14%, diabetes, 24% worldwide, cardiovascular disease, 28%, and at least cancer, 34%. This is about what we are facing at the moment as a big, not only medical problem, also economical-wise, a big issue. If you think about 422 million people suffer from diabetes, we could use wearables to prevent diabetes by more physical activity, which is a big goal of the WHO. We could treat better diabetes care with dedicated insulin pumps or a dedicated insulin or blood sugar measurement solutions. On the other side, one of the biggest other topics in the NCD topic is cardiovascular disease. Around about 1.1 billion people suffer from blood pressure. Just to know your blood pressure on a regular basis is a big topic, and it could be solved also by wearables. And again, the prevention is the best thing because you could prevent blood pressure, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease by more physical activity. And asthma is also a hot topic in the disease topic. Respiratory diseases, 235 million people suffering from that. And additional, on top of that topic of NCDs, we have the topic of mental health and mental illness. And more than 450 million people are suffering from mental and neurological disorders. And that's interesting because it's not included in non-communicable disease. That means people who have perhaps cancer or people who have a cardiovascular problem, what is telling here, 2 to 3 times more likely they will die if they have a mental disease. Or, on the other side, doubles the risk of not recovering. So if you have a non-communicable disease and a mental disorder, the chance to recover goes to 0 roundabout. So we have to fight against that, and it's a great pleasure to have this panel with me because this panel could help us to overcome that topic. So, and I need a mic. I will directly start with the introduction, and ladies first. So, Fotini, could you tell us a bit more about you, your product, your company, your background, please?
Yes, certainly. So I'm the CEO of Empathic Technologies. We are a London-based company, and our space is mental health and mental well-being. And what we do is that we bring together cutting-edge science in embodied cognition and haptics and good design, and we our vision is to create our emotional second skin, which we think is how wearables should help us stay centered and in a good place. And our first product is this wristband here. And what it does is it reduces stress. It's called Doppel. You can think of it as your other heartbeat. On the inside of my wrist, in my pulse, I now have another heartbeat. It has an actuator that feels like a heartbeat. And when it beats slowly, it makes you feel calm when you're in a stressful situation, like a panel in front of people. You can also make it go faster, and then it gives you an energy boost. Like I can use it in the afternoon instead of a coffee. And you can also have it on the whole day long to help you stay centered and anchored. And if you like, it's a lot like what music does. Slow music calms you down, and fast music gets you going. So we use a very similar thing. We trick your brain to think that your heartbeat is calm and slow. And then you have measurable stress reduction.
I think your product is working very well because you are very cool on the stage at the moment.
Yeah, you should see what I'm like without it.
Let's see if David is as cool as you are. So you have a quite similar product, and please tell us a bit more about you and your product and your company.
Sure, thank you so much. My name's Dr. David Rabin, and I'm a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist. I still practice clinical medicine. I work with patients who have severe treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and addiction disorders. And I developed a product called Apollo with a company that was co-founded by myself and my wife, Catherine, who's in the third row. And the company's called Apollo Neuroscience, and we developed a technology that's actually very similar to what Fotini just described with Doppel, but it works in a slightly different way, and it provides gentle layered frequencies of vibration to the skin in a wearable that I'm currently wearing on my ankle, but it can be worn on any part of the body. And these frequencies increase safety signals to the emotional brain that help us feel calm under stress and help us perform better under stress and help us fall asleep more effectively when we're worried at night and having trouble relaxing before bed. And sort of just gently smoothing out the transitions between different states of life that have different demands, energetically speaking. So going from wakefulness to sleepiness, sleepiness to wakefulness, stress to meditation, meditation to work, and all these different states can be very difficult on the body. And we know this very much firsthand because in our work with people with PTSD and kids with autism and ADHD, their single biggest struggle is adapting to change because of the stress levels from their illness in their bodies. And so we've been using this technology not only to help us give better public speaking appearances and also to sleep better and perform better at work, but also to help kids and adults with treatment-resistant mental illness. And we see these kinds of technologies as the future of the way that we can start to help people that Christian was talking about who currently aren't getting relief from a lot of the things that are currently available. Thank you for having me.
And without drugs.
And without medicine.
I have to walk to my my place here anyway, and I'm coming closer to Craig. Craig, you also don't use drugs, but you could do a lot, perhaps even better, without drugs, right?
Yeah. So
what is your product doing and your background?
So
please?
it's really interesting. So I think we're getting the benefit of your calmness over here. So I'm actually the principal of a company called NEX Enterprise. It's helped launch a lot of different products into the market. I'm the founder of a company called Oscar Wellness, and we were the startup of the year 2 years ago here at CES. And this is a device called the Oscar Pulse, and it generates a pulsed electromagnetic field about the size of a beach ball. And what that field does is it increases circulation. And if you think of your cells as electrical fields, what the clinical data proves is that if you can send a pulsed electromagnetic field signal to the cells in the right frequencies, in the right orders, you can realign the cell wall. And what that does is it allows for inflammation to leave and allows circulation and healthy tissue growth. And so it reduces inflammation and pain by increasing circulation. And we're commercialized in about 40 countries. We're in every major healthcare system in the US and one of the fastest growing non-drug pain relief technologies in the world. And so I'm really happy to sit here with these people that are, again, a non-drug alternative to wellness, better care, and we also integrate with digital healthcare systems. So the Kaisers of the world and the VA are using our data to improve patient care.
Okay, and you are representing it as the rehabilitation part
Yes.
of our non-communicable disease
that's correct.
panel here.
For pain
so
management.
we are coming to the second biggest disease we have, cardiovascular disease, and I think you could help a lot in that topic, Amaury. Could you tell us a bit more about your product, your background, your company?
Sure. So we're a company called Circular, and we were founded about 3 years ago. We're working on a wellness smart ring, multi-feature smart ring device, wellness smart ring, and our focus is on how to make you a more productive version of yourself, first through right from the morning, at the beginning of your day, by waking you up smoothly with a smart alarm via vibration, so it's a personal and silent alarm clock, to sleep analysis, to activity analysis. And our big thing is trying to cross-correlate all of this data together and having a device that you can wear absolutely all the time so that we can really have personal recommendations on the app given to you, not just, raw data spit out and trying to really act upon this data. And that's our big thing, yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. I mean, I believe there is a very good link between your ring, perhaps, and the product of Fotini. Please, I mean, you are tracking, you're optimizing the sleep by calibrating at least the body, right? In a way.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a bit more about how this is done today and how could look like such a collaboration, for example?
Well, I think it's a fascinating time in wearables because we are really moving to the second generation of wearables where we can integrate the data that is getting gathered with intervening in how the body actually behaves, how your brain perceives your body. So we are very much on the actuation side where we become part of your own body. And the data is always part of making this be better. And giving, we really want to have this notion of a second skin, which is what the wearables should really do. Because there's a limitation to how much you're going to do by just giving somebody just pure data. Ultimately, the data really needs to go inside the actuation, and it needs to be a smooth part of our lives and our experience. So this is very much the direction that we are going into. And if you like, the way that we would think of we calibrate your body is by adjusting your perception of what goes on inside your body. So the way that you experience is very much informed by what's called interoception. The science of interoception is your perception of things like your heartbeat, your breathing, your gut, and everything that happens inside, and sometimes referred to as the sixth sense. It's a very big part of how we understand the world. And there is a constant communication between your mind and your body. And we can intervene in this and shift it in the direction that makes people healthier and makes people feel better and perform better. There's not that much distinction between those things. And in that sense, we can actually, if you like, as you say, calibrate ourselves to be better. I don't like the phrase optimize ourselves, but because ultimately, well, we are experiencing and we're behaving differently, and technology is becoming part of who we are, and we can co-evolve with our technologies in good places.
What would you say is the major target group at the moment for your product?
For us?
Yeah.
Right now, we have seen a fantastic response from people with anxiety. Mm-hmm. And these are the people that have, I guess, the biggest issue, and they're coming to us saying that this has changed their lives. So this is a core focus. And of course, so our current trials are looking at anxiety, and we've spent lots of time there. But we also think that there is a continuum from normal life with all the stressors and the crazy place that we live in to actually people diagnosed and being treated with anxiety. So we're trying not to make a distinction between those.
Clear. I mean, there was a fascinating article in the scientific journal Nature about at least your solution or the way how you treat. Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. So this was peer-reviewed, published results in Nature Scientific Reports. And what we did in that case is that we caused people anxiety. And we're going back to public speaking. The standard way that you create anxiety in people in the lab is by telling them they have to give a presentation. It's well known. And so what we did is that we put in some people the device beating at 20% below the resting heart rate, and the control group had the device doing nothing. And we had a cover story. We told them it's a blood pressure monitor, so it's not a placebo effect. And then what we measured were things like skin conductance. And you could see that within 5 minutes, the skin conductance, that is the stress level, in the people with the Doppel working was half what it was in the control group. So wow. It's a very clear effect. It was within 5 minutes, and they didn't know what it was. So it's completely non-invasive. You just feel a vibration, and it really works, and you don't have to do anything. So at that point is fantastically interesting.
It's fantastic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's a very new way of using wearables in that way. Yeah? And I believe, Dave, you could add perhaps something, right? Because it's a bit different between how you act and I mean you are wearing at the moment your wearable on the leg. You could also wear it on the wrist, mm-hmm. right? Could you tell us a bit more about the miracle behind?
Sure. I think, again, it's very similar to what Fotini is saying about Doppel. I think there is the body, we as humans, we've evolved a sense, our 5 senses that we think about: touch, sight, sound, smell, and taste. And we think about these all the time, but one of the senses that we neglect the most in terms of importance is touch. And touch is critically important because it's a hardwired pathway in our bodies that has existed long before humankind. So if you go into the evolutionary biology of early mammals, they all hug each other when they give birth to their young, or when they're trying to protect their young from threat. And to convey safety, they have these very tight emotional bonds that are formed specifically around the sense of touch. And this has been well known for a long time. And so what's very interesting is that Apollo was developed to activate the sense of touch, to send safety signals to the brain, which not only enhances, it's not only based on what Fotini is saying about increasing interoception, the feeling of our bodies, the feeling of our heartbeat, the feeling of our gut, the feeling of what you call gut feelings, right? All of these things come from real experiences that we have about situations in our lives and our emotions around those times. So we, through our studies of people with PTSD originally at the University of Pittsburgh, and my clinical work with these people, we actually found that these people have something called low heart rate variability. And so what is low heart rate variability? It's a sign that the stress response system is overactive, the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic system is underactive. And when you do things like deep breathing, meditation, soothing, gentle touch, you cuddle an animal, or you do yoga or deep breathing or any of these things, you boost your heart rate variability back up. And in biofeedback studies, we see that that correlates with people saying that they have less symptoms, which is very interesting. And this is an old technology. Deep breathing is thousands of years old. Biofeedback is from the 1960s, right? So we know for a very long time that these are things that have been long conserved that we can activate in the body. And so that said, deep breathing is great. It could take thousands of hours to practice, to master in real time. When you're giving a talk, to start breathing on stage without anybody noticing is really hard. When you're doing surgery, when you're doing a presentation or any kind of anything, it's hard to take time to meditate in that moment and calm yourself. And so Apollo was developed to provide that same powerful calming stimulus through the sense of touch, just like somebody holding your hand on a bad day, or somebody giving you a hug, or hearing a soothing song, and the body feels that touch sensation and immediately sort of recognizes it as a safety signal that allows us to enter flow states more effectively, to feel safe enough to present ourselves authentically in social situations and make authentic connections and build relationships more easily with people, all the way through to sleeping. And it has a lot to do with the intensity and the frequency of the stimuli that we provide to the body, which feels like a gentle tapping or a gentle ocean wave, or and it's very soothing. And that soothing part of it is critical to the fact that it helps us to recover and feel safe. I think there's a common misconception in the world right now that has been perpetuated for a long time, which is that to heal you have to suffer. And I think the alternative would be that to heal, we must experience pain. Healing can be painful, it can be difficult or hard, but it doesn't necessarily require suffering. The challenge of healing is what forces us to grow and to overcome. And so these different technologies sort of form this toolbox that will allow people to, and allow us to access our natural healing states more effectively, the states that we have always had for a very long time, that have always been there. And I see all of these technologies as being opportunities to help promote and remind us of our own ability to heal ourselves more effectively. So that's the miracle in the sense.
The miracle is not answered 100% for me, because I mean, a lot of people in the audience think, okay, I'm just purchasing a vibrating piece and I could create the same effect. I think there's a lot of action needed to create that product you have today, right, Dave? And so,
sure.
What was the biggest obstacle? Was it the frequency, to get the frequency in the right way, or what was the biggest obstacle to create this whole solution?
That's a great question, and I think that goes back to also what Fotini was saying about the science, right? And I think we have, you know, I'm a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist, and when you talk to the average doctor or even the average technologist and you show them something that we've created, they don't necessarily believe you right off the bat that what you can do, what you can say you do. You know, what we're doing is pretty groundbreaking in terms of health and wellness. And so when we did this work, we actually did all of the initial, most important fundamental clinical trials right off the bat with grant funding from the University of Pittsburgh. And we showed that when we took 38 healthy people and we exposed them to these very specific layered vibration patterns that we extracted from a combination of experimentation in our lab and also from the literature and what we knew about interoception and feeling the body and meditation and mindfulness and performance and recovery, we found that there were specific frequencies that we could provide to people compared to placebo, that their heart rate variability went up reliably, 80% of the time in a clinical trial, which is pretty good. And when we started to fine-tune those frequencies, we actually saw heart rate variability, the sign of nervous system balance or resilience, go up on a reliable level in close to 95% of people that we put this on in the wild, which is really interesting. And this goes back to something important that Amaury was talking about earlier. It's this idea to create closed-loop systems and track changes that we're inducing in the body, right? So it's one thing to put a device on somebody and say, you're going to feel better if you wear this. It's another thing to put a device on somebody and say, you're going to feel better if you wear this, and I can show you on an app that your biometrics are actually improving as you use it. Your sleep's getting better, your heart rate variability is getting better, your resting heart rate's coming down, your respiratory rate is coming down. And so I think that has been the biggest challenge for us, is helping create and implement the technology and the user experience that helps people understand that this is truly helping them, and the more they use it, the better they get.
And communicate that also against the medical community. I believe this
Exactly.
is very important, and regarding such a feedback you could showcase.
Right.
And I think there we are coming directly to Amaury, because he could monitor that. He could monitor at least the output of your devices you have created, right? And then Amaury, I mean, I asked Dave the question regarding the product creation, how to miniaturize the thing, or how to get the topic behind the features you need in the device. I mean, your device is unbelievably small. Yes. Perhaps you could show the audience your device.
Here it is.
And now please tell the audience what's all in your device.
Right, so in this device you have a PPG, which is absolutely used in a lot of devices. It uses infrared to get the value of the reflection of the light you get in your arteries in your fingers. And so you get a pretty precise value for your HR, and we derive from that, of course, BPM, HRV, other metrics we can derive from BPM. There's an accelerometer for movement, of course. These two combined, we know we can get, for sleep monitoring, we can get sleep stages, how long you've taken the sleep. You know, we've got all the different positions algoed out, so we know exactly in what position you are, what activities you're doing, how are you timing your heart, are you going for 80% of your max heart rate and the training, and we can calibrate, we were talking about earlier, your trainings like this. And you have also a vibration motor in the ring, so that's for more lifestyle kind of features, waking up, alerting, and yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay, so vibration not for the same solutions your colleagues are using it, so the vibration just for getting alert to wake up.
Right, for now, but it's super interesting, and and we were discussing, you know, they're trying to find also collaborations on this, and we were talking about going full circle on this, you know, having a device that's going to track everything, and you're going to have everything on the same dashboard, and a device going to treat it, and you can see the results on the other one, and that's absolutely fantastic that we can do that together.
I mean, you are focusing not only on sleep detection, right? You are focusing also on the daily activity, physical activity. Now, coming to the topic of battery lifetime, I mean, you have to survey the night and the day. So, what is the battery time of your ring?
So it's about 3 days. It's a 45-minute charge.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the battery is custom made. You know, in terms of technology, Tom from Polar was talking about this, but it's a lot of software fine-tuning in order to have, you know, the best battery life. But it's also in terms of electronics, of course, you know, we can get better than what we actually have in the world, and that's the best we can come up for now.
Coming to Craig, and your very nice blue piece here. I mean, all of you know these EMS topics, you know these normal treatments of pain. I don't know if everyone understood how you are treating pain.
Sure.
Please explain it to the audience, because it's really very special. It's not a patch. It's not directly connected to the skin, but it's working very well, right?
So actually, I want to dovetail a little bit on what David and Fotini just talked about. So when I started in medical devices in 2007, invasive technologies for pain management were the day. And we're sitting here today in 2020, and all four of us represent technology that's totally non-invasive. So this is totally non-invasive. You can see that I can wear it anywhere on my body. It generates this field that reduces pain all over my body, whether it's nerve, bone, soft tissue, circulatory issues. That is the first wave, was to get us to a non-invasive space. The second part to that is to give that information to healthcare providers and to caregivers so that they can help their patients actually get better. So the biofeedback mechanisms that are coming off of these devices and the data that's out there is now being aggregated in such a way, and we're participating in that. And so this device as a non-invasive pain management tool, and to your question, Christian, is that your body naturally wants to recover. This is basically an accelerator for that. So that's what it does for your body. It increases circulation, and everyone, I think, understands the physiology that if you get increased circulation, it allows the body to naturally recover. The interesting thing about that is the body does not know the difference between PTSD or Achilles tendonitis. Pain is pain. The signal runs the same way through the body. So think about that for a moment. So we have 100 million plus people in this country that suffer from chronic pain. And what do they do for it? They medicate, they try all kinds of crazy contraptions, they'll go to all kinds of different types of providers. All of those have their place in it, but the consumer, especially being here at CES, is really interested in how do I self-manage my care. And that's what these technologies are doing, is we're allowing the consumer or the patient to take power back on that. And with that data, they become far more responsible around their care, which is going to allow us to really address this multi-trillion-dollar issue. And pain management is a part of that, because pain is a subset of all of those disease states. Right.
We just recently talked about diabetes care, for example. It could even stimulate the wound healing?
Yeah, so the interesting is this technology is used in wound healing, but it's very expensive. It's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 devices. This is a $400 device. So we have, anecdotally, we haven't done studies on, but we have lots of patients that have wounds, especially diabetic wounds, even my own father, who have been healed from their condition using this device. And it takes weeks, not months and years. So it's literally, the more you use it, the better you are, which is very similar to the other technologies that are up here, is that the more you make them part of your daily activity, the better off you're going to be, which is pretty cool, because now I'm not popping Advil and taking drugs. I'm actually can manage my pain with a device. And I travel a lot, so I ding myself all the time. And I was snowboarding in Japan, and I whacked my knee, and the next day I was able to go out and snowboard because I could put this on my knee overnight. And the next day, I didn't have bone bruise on my leg anymore. It was amazing, right? So
I need it.
Right? Yeah. So that's the thing, is that when you talk about the special or the what's the secret sauce or the special thing, 5 years ago, you couldn't even talk about this stuff because the audience wasn't ready to listen to it. And today, now we're talking about integrating into people's healthcare, which is pretty fantastic for me.
So if I want to buy it in the US, there's even reimbursement?
Yeah, we actually have reimbursement. You can go to your doctor, and there's a code, to HCPCS code, which is for durable medical equipment. And then also, and private insurance is covering it, and workers' comp is covering it as well.
And your major distribution channels, is it OTC or?
We do a lot of direct-to-consumer on oscawellness.com, and we also sell through Flex Spending Account and Health Savings Account, so FSAstore.com and HSAstore.com, and Amazon, of course. But then we also sell through doctor providers, so your pain management doc or your primary care.
Okay, so if someone of you need distribution helps, he knows how to do it. I think I have the feeling. Coming back to Amaury regarding your ring, and I think the feedback loop is very important by showcasing that wearables have an effect on, the treatment has an effect directly. So I like this idea or concept to look deeper in, let's say, traditional Chinese medicine and treatments in that field, and directly to connect them to such a ring, for example, and to read out the data and to analyze the data. What is your experience in analyzing the data you are getting out of your ring? How much users you have already? How is your algorithm working in that field? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. I think the most important thing is basing all of your algorithms, and that's what we all do, of course, against the gold standards in your industry. So what we're doing with our algorithms is going into clinical testing, and we get these, the big test for sleep, for example, analysis called PSGs, and we test against PSGs with people wearing our ring, and we fine-tune our algorithm with annotations from different scientists, and we get as close as possible to that gold standard. And that's what we do too with activity monitoring with the ECG test, for example. And we were talking about how close to getting prevention for cardiovascular diseases. We really need to be super precise and accurate about these things, and that's why we try to get as close as possible, and widening the pool of people testing for these trials. And so that's what we work on a lot.
Okay. As we have some minutes left, I want to ask the audience if there are questions to the very interesting panel and to these really breakthrough technologies we have here on the stage. Please hear the first one here in the third row. Do we have a mic, or should I run with my mic? Or you could just speak loud.
Talking about, we've been talking about a lot of devices and a lot of companies that are collecting data, analyzing data, and providing feedback to consumers. And it seems to me like there is not a standard, or there's a lot of silos of data between all these companies. And if we try to give the consumer, a view of what these devices are telling us, what these wearables are telling us. How do we interconnect, as technologies and as fitness companies? How do we bring all this data together in a way that makes sense? I don't know whose responsibility that is. Is there a working group that needs to be created? Who knows? There are lots of standards out there for other types of technologies, but how do we prevent the big fruit company in the sky bringing in all their weight and controlling, how the data is stored and shared?
I can answer my quick piece on that. Is that I think you're absolutely right. We do need cohesive, comprehensive data organizational structures, and those are coming along. There's a couple that are out there. One of them is called Heads Up Health, that brings together a ton of data from a ton of different wearable technologies and from your phone. And MindStrong is another one that's focused on mental health that does this kind of stuff. That's I believe co-founded or co-run by Tom Insel, who was a former head of the NIH. So there's a lot of things like that on the horizon. I think what we're trying to do that's a little bit different is it's known that more data does not make people feel better. You can give people tons of data about how stressed they say that you think they are, that your machine learning algorithms tell you they are, or how little sleep they're getting, and it only seems to make people more stressed and more worried about how unhealthy they are. So what we've tried to do with our interventions, I think all 4 of us, is to create something that takes your data, and as much as we can learn about you from your data, whether it's coming from your phone, from the wearables, from your app, whatever it is, and then we take that data and we create algorithms that act on what we know about your data without you having to do anything, without requiring you to intervene and start changing your breath pattern because your device told you to. More that, what if we could provide you a signal that comes from a detection, that gets turned on by us detecting that you're not breathing in a way that is consistent with peak performance or peak recovery, and then we just turn the signal on automatically to help bring you back into balance. And so I think that is a lot of what we're talking about trying to do, is to create more useful applications for that data so that the individual user isn't burdened by it so much. And that's, I think, one of truly the most revolutionary parts about what all of the work that we're trying to do, and it's something that's going to continue to evolve as AI technology gets better into the future.
I think Greg wants to add
Yeah, so first of all, it's a great question. It's actually a really big issue. And I think if you look at the different silos that people sit in, so in healthcare, you have technologies like Epic and Cerner that are dealing with our digital health records. And then there's all kinds of different interconnections there, from your radiologist all the way to your general practitioner. And then you have things like Training Peaks and Garmin's active platforms. And so they're capturing data. And of course, Apple and others that have got data sets out there. And so, yeah, it's incumbent upon us as manufacturers and device makers to come up with a platform for that. But I think we're a little bit early in terms of managing that platform, because the medical community really does need to embrace this technology and look at these as non-pharmacological and maybe in quote unquote non-traditional applications to dealing with disease states.
Complementary applications.
Yeah. We're not quite there yet. I think in the next 5-7 years, you'll see that those platforms will start to evolve. And I think us as an industry need to work on collaborating and creating platforms where that works. But the problem is, and the real problem is that on the patient side, is that their disease state is personal to them. So I'll use an example. We have a lot of fibromyalgia patients that use our device. We're not indicated for fibromyalgia. And by the way, my fibromyalgia and your fibromyalgia are totally different. So we may not even relate on it. But my data around my fibro is my story. And so that's where I think the editorial is going to go to, is how do we collectively pull those stories together and then empower people with that. And so it's going to happen in the medical space because we have digital health records that exist. You as a patient are going to start to evolve and control more of your own data. And then there's going to be these kind of platform plays that are going to come out. And I haven't seen a good solution yet from where I'm sitting, but I think it's very forward-thinking that we as an industry need to be doing that.
I think the question is very important. We have to talk about standardization of the data sets. So HRV, for example, is a very common topic, but if you ask 4 experts on the stage, you get 4 different answers about HRV. And so these are topics we have to clarify, but we need perhaps even some legal help for that, governmental legal help perhaps, to overcome that topic. Yeah. All the physicians want to know the data from the patient, but they are not able to put it in the today existing Cerner systems, for example.
Correct.
Clear, because they are also not medical data. So this is a bit the difficulty we have. Is there another question to the audience? From the audience to our panel regarding these amazing products we have here? Another question? Because otherwise I have several questions still.
Thanks for that, everyone. Just curious where you think the pathway to mainstream adoption of wearables within the health setting, what that looks like. Obviously, there's still a lot of really exciting sort of niche sort of audience uptake, but how do you kind of see that overwhelming mass adoption and getting people feeling more comfortable about, I guess, the role of tech within their health maintenance?
Yeah. So I'll start it off. So there is an innovation group out of the FDA that is trying to fast track these technologies in. And then you have CMS, which at the end of the day gives codes that allow for these technologies to be reimbursable. And so we need real strong pressure around our regulators in this country to provide access so that these great technologies actually get reimbursed. Because that's the first thing everyone always asks is, what's the reimbursement on this device? And so we're conditioned that way in the US. And in other markets where it's you have socialized systems, and I haven't lived in them for more than a couple of years, but I can tell you if the device is made available through that system, whether it's in Canada or Japan or Germany, then the patients can adopt them quickly. But in order to get through that threshold, that to me is the biggest boundary right now, is that if the patient feels like they have to pay for everything and manage their own care, and they don't have partnership with their healthcare provider or their insurance, it's pretty difficult to manage. And so we need help there.
I guess you might mean, so I'll add to that there are two things that you might mean by mass adoption. One is mass adoption in the healthcare setting, where I think what you're saying is completely correct. The other is mass adoption as a consumer product or a lifestyle product. And I think this is something that we experience quite a lot, because that's how we would like to present our technology to consumers. And what we've seen is that actually there's way more awareness of technology being something that you can use to manage your state of mind. When we first started, that seemed to be really strange. And I guess people's paradigm of what a wearable would be was Fitbit. But that has completely shifted, because there are actually just more things out there. So I think the more that there are offerings and they become part of the world, it's a fairly natural thing to start doing, to pick those up. In fact, probably our problem right now is almost the opposite, that we actually have a huge spectrum of people coming to the product for different needs and different purposes, because it can work in different ways, if you like. Again, if you have the analog of, it's like silent music, people use music for a million things. So it's almost a problem is narrowing those things down. So I do think that there is a lot more awareness, which is ultimately the question there, and also more evidence-based technologies, which is the other side of what it is that you want. So there's a huge difference between what we're doing and something that does something.
But to your point, though, we're clinically significant. So these products are all clinically significantly valid, which is really important. And I think that's critical to get a mass adoption, to your point.
Yes.
I mean, it's a really big issue. We suffer from that because that doesn't get disseminated very well.
And I think to add on to that is one word that of critical importance, which is trust, right? People are not, we're entering a state where data is being misused. Our data is being misused by corporations that we subscribe to, use their applications and their websites and all different kinds of situations like this. And so we're not necessarily fully comfortable disclosing our personal health data to whoever when we don't know that it's going to be protected as if it was their own. And when we start to think about the first populations that are going to be adopting wearables like this, they're people who are currently taking medicine or who are not good candidates for medicine, who have things like treatment-resistant illnesses like fibromyalgia or PTSD or insomnia or any of these other things that are not getting relief. Those are the people who are desperate enough to go out and try anything that they can find that will help them feel better, but they also have to overcome the barrier of trust where they understand that this is technology that's not trying to, get you addicted on another thing. It's trying to help you remind your body, remind you how to retrain your body to heal, to engage its natural recovery responses. Like Greg was saying, and really helping to facilitate the healing process and empower the user to heal themselves more effectively rather than to just collect data and sell it to sell them more things.
Yeah, and you create mass adoption by getting a bunch of champions for your product. And that's how we've had to do it as entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have to have a lot of product champions. And that's how we get adoption, because we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to budget to go out and spend to evangelize about our product. And by the way, that's disingenuous, right? And so that's where the trust comes in, but it's taken this much time till 2020 just to even have a panel where 4 companies can sit up here with a totally non-invasive technology that helps people. So it's a tough challenge.
Therefore, such a panel is very important to bring it out to the audience and really to drive adoption. And I mean, in the long term, where do you see us if we think now in 5 years we're sitting here again on that panel? Just one sentence from all of you, perhaps ladies first. 5
I
years
want
from
us
now.
to solve these data questions we just talked about so that these different technologies can collaborate to add to what our bodies can naturally do.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I think in 5 years, hopefully, all of our technologies will be working together in a toolbox that everyone will be able to access and pick the things that they feel will work the best for their lifestyle and for their needs.
Yeah, collaboration and being able to see exactly where the problem is, how to treat it in the most efficient way possible.
And I would say that we need to be considered standard of care in 5 years, and not
point.
some unique technology out there, but we're actually standard of care.
That's a great point, that these technologies should be first line. When we're talking about providing a treatment for somebody who has a severe illness, most medicine that we prescribe for people has a greater likelihood of having side effects in those patients than reducing their symptoms. So if you could, as doctors, we should be doing no harm for our patients. We should giving them something that will empower them to heal themselves with minimal side effects is a much better place to start, and then we can try medicine afterwards if we need it.
So that's a super important thing to say, because this is a different paradigm, right? These are technologies that work with your body, and then it enables it to do even more of what it naturally does.
Okay, we could have this discussion, I think, ongoing, but Julie is already looking here behind the scene, and I have to stop now. So thank you again for being with us. Please, some extra hands to our panel here. It was a great pleasure to have you here.